What's going on, folks? Your guy Tommy Gay and TG here for TOMMYTALK. Tommy Talk. Happy to be back with you all as always. We're getting down to the end, folks. We're getting down to the end of good old 2K25. It's been a long year. It's been a good year for me personally. And we're getting down to the end of football season. We're getting real close to the end of football season. And we're going to start with the National Football League. First up, I turned 27 years old this year. 27 years young. Well, not young, because when I was younger, I used to say, like to my parents as they were getting older, 50 is the new 40 and stuff like that, 60 is the new 50. You know what I mean? But now today, I'm 27 years old. And I feel like I'm 47. I feel like I've unked out hard. In my brain, I'm protesting, heartily. I'm not unk. I'm not unk. I'm unk. I'm unked out. I mean, I've said this before. There are people coming up now in the NFL fandom world who do not remember the last time the New England Patriots were in the Super Bowl. The last time they won the Super Bowl, the end of the Patriots dynasty. There are people who don't remember it. It was more than a full year before COVID started. And COVID felt like yesterday, but guess what? It wasn't. It was more than a half decade ago. Not the point. The point is, in spite of all that, on Sunday, when the New England Patriots suffered a crushing defeat against the Buffalo Bills. They're up 21-0. And the Bills storm all the way back to win 35-31. I had that feeling, that nice feeling, watching Patriots fans go through something bad. Which, first of all, you would think that would fade over time. And I'm not even the biggest Patriots hater. I couldn't imagine being a Jets fan or stuff like that when the Patriots were good. Or when they were really good, when they had Tom Brady. And yet, when I saw Dave Portnoy go on Twitter and go on a rant when they were up 21-0, saying, "We run the league, Super Bowl comes through New England, the real dynasty's back." And they come back and they lose that game in crushing fashion, soul-crushing fashion, at home. It felt satisfying. It felt satisfying. I'm not going to lie. Okay? Is it the nicest thing in the world? No. But it's the truth. It brought back a lot of old feelings. I was never even the biggest Patriots hater, and yet I still remember how much I disliked the massholes getting all, cocky for years and years and years. So that wasn't too bad. And listen, the Bills, people tried to put them away this season, similar to how they put away the Chiefs. We'll talk about the Chiefs in a minute. But the Bills are still the Bills. And Josh Allen, with the injury now to Patrick Mahomes, now the season is gone, I think temporarily at least, because I think Mahomes is still more talented, no question. But he is the best player in the National Football League. I don't think that's a question at all at this point. He does more with less, and he plays his ass off like nobody else. So credit to Josh Allen. I'd probably put them as my Super Bowl favorites for this year. Truthfully, honestly. I think that they're going to finally make their way to the Super Bowl, which I feel like I've said for like 5 years in a row, but I'll stand by it this time. I'm just saying. Speaking of the Chiefs lose to the Chargers. They are eliminated for the first time since 2014. The Kansas City Chiefs will not be playing in the postseason, and for the first time in Patrick Mahomes' career, they will not be playing in the postseason. Wow. This season for the Chiefs really has just been a disaster of disasters, one disaster after another. They looked like they were back on track. I thought they were back on track after that huge win against the Colts. But then the Colts went off the rails And then the Chiefs stayed off the rails, and now the Chiefs are done. And Mahomes, torn ACL, that's not great. You know, I'm not going to say there's any bright side of that. At least they aren't in the middle of a playoff hunt and he tears his ACL, I guess you could say. If you're going to tear his ACL, at least do it, when you're not going to make the postseason at all. Doesn't mean that it's good. I feel bad for Mahomes, obviously. You never want to see something like that happen. But for the Chiefs, it's a lost season already. It's a lost season. And you have to wonder now, has the Super Bowl window closed for the time being in Kansas City? Is it time to start overhauling that roster? And does that include saying, hey, Travis Kelce, maybe it's time to ship off? I think the next time that Patrick Mahomes will be in the Super Bowl, which I do believe will be in the Super Bowl again, but the next time Patrick Mahomes will be in the Super Bowl, Travis Kelce will be living with Taylor Swift in the last great American dynasty house in Rhode Island. That will be their full-time residence. He'll be retired. He'll be doing more commercials. He'll be having fun. I don't know if Andy Reid will even be the head coach anymore. There's a take for you. He's getting older. How long is he going to be around? They're going to have to do some real revamping there in Kansas City to get back to contender status. I have no doubt that they can make it because Patrick Mahomes is still Patrick freaking Mahomes. All right, he's still Patrick Mahomes. In the long run, the Chiefs, I think, will be okay. But I've heard the take come out that their flaws were masked last year by that Super Bowl run. And if they had not made the Super Bowl, maybe they would have taken a harder look at revamping this offseason rather than running it back again. But they decided to run it back again, and it might hurt them in the long term. So it's tough. It's tough if you're for your Chiefs fan, but you know what? It's one of those things, for me, my childhood, it was the Patriots that were dominating everybody. For people coming up now, it's been the Chiefs. So for them, they see, the Chiefs fall. It must feel similar to when, people of my generation, or I guess I'm still same generation as these people, but people of my ilk saw the Patriots dominate for years. Speaking of torn ACL, so Packers, Broncos, and I got to give credit to the Broncos here. The Broncos, sneaky, one of the best teams in the league. If you want me to ask the other team in the AFC that can make the Super Bowl, I think that is the Broncos. They're now in the driver's seat for the number 1 seed. They are a wagon on offense. They can really get it going. I've given credit to Sean Payton before in how he, after a rough start there, he made Russell Wilson go hasta la bye-bye. They bring in Bo Nix, who I didn't think was going to be that guy, and he has been that guy. There's no doubt about that. Absolutely none. Now, if you're the Packers, you lose Micah Parsons with a torn ACL. Brutal. Just absolutely brutal. Now, I'm not going to... Well, first of all, I am not going to say that the Packers are sunk because they lose Parsons, or even they lost Watson. I've seen too much of the Packers ripping my heart into 10 billion pieces to believe that. Now, do I think they make the Super Bowl? No. But I didn't think they were going to make the Super Bowl even before those guys got hurt, to be fair here. But I still think they can win the division and make a playoff run, even without Micah Parsons. But it does hurt you a lot. It really hurts you in the locker room. And I think Packers fans seem to be, very down in the dumps after that. Between the loss, which, puts you back in second in the NFC North, and you lose, we'll see how long Watson is out, but you lose Micah Parsons for the remainder of the season. It's brutal. It's awful. And now it brings you into this week's game. And before we talk about Bears-Packers, I'll talk about the Bears. I talked about it last week. Bears taking on the Browns. My guy, Shedeur, perfect timing, imperfect timing. 3 interceptions. It was not a good day to be Shedeur Sanders. Obviously it was brutally cold in Chicago, so that didn't help matters. However, he didn't look great. He looked sloppy. Now, I don't think all of it was his fault. I guess that's an easy out just to, say, oh, it wasn't his fault. It wasn't his fault. I don't think everything was his fault there. He made a couple of impressive passes downfield. He made some good plays. And couple of those interceptions really were not. That pass to Jerry Jeudy. He throws a perfect pass to Jerry Jeudy. It hits him in the chest, bounces off him, and Jalen Johnson intercepts it. I mean, is Shedeur supposed to catch it and throw it at the same time? What? What are we doing here? That's all I'll say about that. I think that's a fair analysis of the situation when it comes to Shedeur in that game. But it was not his best game. It was not his best game at all. He had a couple of good games. He's still a rookie. I don't think this should be held against him too hard, especially because the Bears defense looks so damn good. 30 takeaways on the season so far this year. 30 takeaways. Pretty impressive stuff from a defense that has not been especially incredible in a lot of ways, especially in pass coverage. But they're ball hawks, man. They're ball hawks. They get their hands on the ball and they get it going. They bring it the other way. And winning over that turnover battle is pretty huge. They went 31-3, dominant win, most dominant win of the season for the Bears. Caleb had a nice game for sure. So he threw 2 touchdown passes to DJ Moore. That second pass to DJ Moore, when he was running towards the sideline, kind of sidearms at what he likes to do, and people will say, well, that was a risky pass. That was a risky pass. I really don't think so, because you watch that play, where that ball ended up. He put that ball so on the money, you'd think that thing was made out of silver, baby. I mean, that thing was right on the money, in the perfect place for DJ Moore to get it. I mean, it was incredible. Now, I will say, post-game press conference, they asked Caleb about the pass, and he says, oh, I can make any throw. I don't love hearing that. That's not what I want to hear, because now you're getting a little cocky. Now you're going to start tossing the ball over the place. And yes, a lot of those passes you're going to make, but you're going to make a couple of dumb passes. You've done a great job of not being an interception machine. If I'm correct, he was 12 interceptions over first 1,000 career passing attempts, like the lowest in NFL history. That's pretty incredible. I mean, he's not a turnover machine, but if you get too, happy with some of those throws that you believe you can make, you end up making mistakes. I mean, that last game against the Packers, that throw was just, to be fair here, that was just a bad throw. Underthrown horribly. Didn't give that loft on it. Didn't make that throw the way it needed to. But you get a little too cocky, and then bad things happen, man. So, listen, I don't love hearing him say that. Now, having said that, I do appreciate the fact that he has that much faith in himself. So, good on Caleb for that, but, let's take it back for a second. And this leads us into Bears-Packers round 2 this Saturday night, Soldier Field, Chicago, Illinois. I'm less nervous about this game than I was about the last Packers game. Now, having said that, I'm not going to discount this game whatsoever. Not at all. Not even in the slightest. I think I'm just less nervous because I've already had my lungs ripped out of my chest, because that game against the Packers really ripped the lungs out of my chest. So it really makes it tough for me to get really intense about this matchup. Having said that, the Bears in that post-game locker room speech seem to be hyped up themselves. They still believe in themselves. So I'm not, it doesn't matter if I am, hemming and hawing about it. They believe in themselves, and that's what matters. Being at home makes a big difference. Obviously, the injuries to the Packers helps things. I don't think that gives the Bears, even with the Micah Parsons injury, it only went down from, I believe, 3.5 to 1.5. The Packers are still favored. So I'm not going to start making any type of, crazy predictions about how this is when the Bears strike back and win. I was a Bears fan. I will say the Bears are going to win, if only because I love the Chicago Bears, and I do believe that they're going to have a good chance of winning this game. But to do so, Caleb is going to have a better first half. Second half of the last game against the Packers was good, but that first half was so poor, and it put them behind the cue ball immediately, and they had to dig their way out of it. And then, of course, the interception at the end was a backbreaker. It's going to be a crazy game. It's going to be a crazy Saturday. Biggest game at Soldier Field in a long time. Probably since that a certain doink that it was ×2 game against the Eagles back in 2018. Probably the biggest since then, which isn't great. But whatever. Just saying. One more NFL story I want to get into. So, Phillip Rivers. I talked about my childhood. I talked about growing up watching football, watching Tom Brady dominate things. Another piece of my childhood was watching Phillip Rivers. These QBs, Phillip Rivers, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. These guys, were on your TV every day from when you were a little kid until you were growing up. And then, next thing you know, they're gone. By the time Phillip Rivers had retired, I was out of college. Truly. And when I heard that Phillip Rivers was coming back, that was such a cool feeling. And yeah, it's holding on to the past. And you can't hold on to the past too hard because then you don't move on to the future. But man, was it nice seeing Phil Rivers go back out there on the field. And no, he wasn't perfect. It wasn't a great game by any stretch. However, he was playing a great defense in the Seahawks. He nearly led them to a victory. And coming off of being a coach for a high school football team, not playing in the National Football League for 5 years, and you have Phillip Rivers sauntering back on the field and playing NFL football at not a terrible level. I've seen a lot worse quarterback in the National Football League than what Phillip Rivers did on Sunday. So credit to Phillip Rivers getting back out there. Credit to the Colts, honestly, for putting him in there. Now, speaking of that, I saw on his podcast, Cam Newton was angry and upset. He was upset and angry that the Colts called Phillip Rivers and not him. And I'll tell you why. You know what? To be fair here, to be fair to you, Cam, to be fair to you, I'm going to speak to you honestly. When Phillip Rivers left the field last, it was in the playoffs. He led that team, the Colts, to the playoffs. When you were on the field last, you were not good. You weren't good. Your brand of football does not, translate to what the Colts were running and what the Colts have been doing this year. So yeah, I 100 times out of 100 would have called Phillip Rivers before you, but it just feels like sour grapes whenever I hear him get, angry and upset and peeved that teams don't bring him in personally. It's just annoying. And especially because it takes away from Phillip Rivers. It takes away from Phillip Rivers. And speaking of Phillip Rivers, one last thing. They asked Jay Cutler, they said, hey, if Caleb went down and Tyson Bagent went down, would you be willing to come and quarterback the Bears under, Ben Johnson? And he said, I'd come back with bells on. I'd come back with bells on. And listen, would they do that? Probably not. The odds are no. Should they do that? Maybe not. No. However, if they did that, it'd be one of the greatest moments of my life because I'm a huge Jay Cutler guy. I'm a Jay Cutler fan. I'm a Cutler stan. Cuddy does it. If that were to happen, one of the great moments of my life, personally, watching Jay Cutler go back out there on the field as the quarterback of the Chicago Bears. However, I'm not going to count on anything like that happening anytime soon. And I don't know if would be the smartest thing in the world. However, you know what? You bring out Phil Rivers, and guess who's younger than Phil Rivers? Jay Cutler. Just saying. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Finally, Sherrone Moore, fired at the University of Michigan, one of the most shocking news stories in college football this offseason. Moore gets fired for an inappropriate relationship. Then he gets arrested. I mean, just a whirlwind, just insanity. Listen, man, first of all, if you're Michigan, this is obviously a disaster and it's very bad. And this is going to sound a little bit callous, but I think it might be the truth. It could have been worse. Honestly, it could have been worse. There could have been a bigger scandal. You could have tried to cover it up. It could have been a big scandal. It could have hurt you a lot more. Instead, you found out, you cut the head off, and you move on. And plus, I think there's been some underperformance, compared to the Harbaugh era. So, you get a little fresh start. You bring in some new blood. They've been throwing around a few names. Kalen DeBoer is not leaving Alabama, which this is going to be a hot take, but if I were him, I just don't know if in the long run you're going to be successful at Alabama, if Alabama is going to be your home. I had a friend who said, well, no. You either get fired at Alabama or you leave Alabama or you die at Alabama. And it's like, yeah, or you retire at Alabama, whatever. It's like, yeah, but for Kalen DeBoer, I think that the writing's on the wall that eventually it's going to be here fired at Alabama because I don't think the culture fit is there. Yes, he's performed all right. Yes, he made the SEC championship game. I just don't think that the culture fit is there in the long run. And I don't know of how long he will last. I think if things go south a little bit, they could be calling for his head sooner rather than later. And I think he'd be a better fit up in Ann Arbor. But he's not going there. I've heard people throwing around Jedd Fisch as being a possible candidate out of Washington. That I could see happening. It'll be interesting to see. Obviously, it's a very sad situation. Pretty shocking. We hear Sherrone Moore, you just throw away a lot of money, man. It's just like Mel Tucker, another coach from the state of Michigan, who did something really stupid, and he threw away boatloads of cash. And now, the university doesn't owe you anything, and you get to, you go to the unemployment line. In fact, he's actually might be going to the chow line because he might be going to prison. So, not great. Pretty bad. Hey guys, folks, thank you all for watching. Please subscribe, please subscribe, please subscribe. Please subscribe. Thank you all for watching, folks. Please subscribe at Tommy SGAHAN on social media platforms. Twitter and Instagram and the TikTok and all that good stuff. And YouTube. That is my ad on YouTube as well. And subscribe on YouTube, comment, do all those good, beautiful things. You good, beautiful, honest people. Be honest with me. Tell me all the things you want to hear, and I might just say them. And I still need to figure out how to eat my hat because I need to eat my hat. I'm not a liar. I never said when I was going to eat the hat, but I will eventually eat the hat. Shame me into eating the hat already. Shame me. Please. Do it. Now. Please. Thank you all for watching. I'm Tom again. TG. This has been Tommy Talk. See you guys.